Hey everyone, Nazori here, and I wanted to go ahead and give my thoughts and opinions on the Wild Blood update for Albion Online. We've had the update for what, like 13 days now, just about 2 weeks, and I just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on each part of the update and let you know what I think about it. You know, if you're on the fence about coming back to the game, this might help you determine whether it's worth it for you. Of the major features added, probably the most impactful one is the new Shapeshifter weapon line. I want to say that this is a phenomenal addition to the game. I absolutely love the weapons. They are insanely fun to play, and they cover a very wide range of playstyles. You have the ganking Prowler staff, you have the solo PvE Blood Moon staff, you have the ZVZ tank Golem staff. The new Rootborn staff, the Treant, is an excellent support that can be added to almost any group. The variety of roles and things that they've added for these staves are excellent. I don't think they've ever added a more interesting weapon line. To be fair, this is only the second weapon line that they've added since the release of the game, but I want to say that this addition was a very welcome one. The stabs are insanely fun, and I'm pretty sure they're going to fit perfectly into the game. The next major addition that was added here is the new tracking feature. This is basically how we create and craft shapeshifter weapons. You can only do it in the red zone or the black zone. Basically, you track down animals and you can potentially get artifacts which can be used to create shapeshifter weapons. The feature is pretty fun. I want to say it definitely adds more activity within the black zone. I've heard a lot of criticism on this feature because of its tedious, like walking around a lot. Maybe the rewards aren't good enough. They did just recently buff them. I'm sure they're going to tweak the rewards and the amount that you have to track each creature as we go. But all in all, I think it's a net positive for the game. It takes place in the open world. You have a lot more people roaming around. There are group size restrictions to the activity. So you're either in a group of 3 max or in a group of 8 max. It doesn't let you track when you have any more than that. So the groups that are roaming around are small scale. It has encouraged a lot more groups to roam. And honestly, my favorite part is it just gives you a place to go. It gives you direction. Typically, when you're gathering or just looking for mobs or spiders or whatever, you're like, well, let's just go this way. And you have to pretty much decide every few minutes, hey, let's go that way. With tracking, you pretty much just start tracking, and the thing potentially guides you around from zone to zone, and it gives you a way to just explore around. I think it's an excellent addition. It's a really good in between when you don't have a chest to grab, when you don't have a spider to clear, there's nothing directly in front of you to gather. It just kind of guides you along throughout the black zone. I think it's a pretty good addition. I like the feature. Next major feature on my list here is the awakened weapons. Now, this one I'm a little mixed feelings about. For those who don't know what awakened weapons are, basically you can take any weapon that is of a point 0.4 tier, so 4.4, 5.4, 6.4, and so on. You can take a weapon that is of this tier, bring it to the forge, and make it an awakened version of it. It gives it extra stats that you can build. It is crazy expensive to get this done, but it does make the weapon quite a bit more powerful. And I will say that there is a pretty big potential downside to this. You can get some crazy stats on some of these weapons, like up to 700 extra max HP, 10% extra ability damage, 10% lifesteal. It's quite a bit over the top. Now, it is fun to get it done. So that's where the mixed feelings come in. I recently awakened a few weapons and built them up. You have to go out into the open world and feed it energy. Then you got to go back and feed it a lot of silver. It is extremely expensive, but I don't know how it's going to play out in the long run as far as game balance goes. The weapons get pretty ridiculous. And not only can you make them stronger with stats, but you can potentially patch holes that weapons have and open up a different build variety for different weapons. For example, I use hammers all the time. You've probably seen it in my videos. Now, hammers are extremely mana hungry. I just recently awakened a 7.4 tomb hammer and gave it 10% energy cost reduction. That means that it's using 10% less energy. Because of this, I was able to take off mana sprint from the build. Now I don't have regular sprint. I can put on the royal sandal sprint. So it actually has greatly increased the build power because I'm no longer restricted to having to use mana sprint. So there are potentially 1,000 different balance issues with awakened weapons. So that's really where we are with it. I don't know if it's good or bad. I think it is potentially extremely unbalanced, but it's also pretty fun to awaken weapons and build them up. That's the mixed feelings. I don't really have any better review than that. I don't know if they're going to make major adjustments to how it works. I don't have any suggestions for it, just some early observations. The next major feature on my list are the new potions. I want to say they're pretty good additions to the game. You have a tornado in a bottle, which knocks people back in a location. You have the Hellfire pot, which is pretty much a demon cape in a potion. You have the Berserker pot that increases damage. I have not experimented with this, but I have some ideas. There's the Acid pot, which makes your damage resistances go down, so it's a pierce. You have the Calming potion, which could potentially help out groups that are running statics to defend against rats. You have the Gathering potion, which is probably one of my favorite additions. It speeds up gathering as well as gives you a gathering yield. So it seems to be pretty worth it as long as the node is of a decent value. Just a fun little extra bit to add to gathering. You have the Cleansing potion, which cleanses all CC and damage over time effects. All in all, the additions are super interesting. We also have in the next patch notes that they're getting rid of the cooldown, ability cooldown when switching potions or food. So there's a potential here that we could have a bunch of different potions in our inventory and be able to swap them out right before a fight and not suffer from a 5-second ability cooldown. So overall, I think they just make a good addition to the game. Next on my list, we have the island rework. Now, I will say that I like what they've done visually with the personal islands. I do also like the extra customizability that we have with our islands, but I don't think they're exactly where they should be. We can now get extra islands, which is going to help with the whole meta of having 20 different accounts in order to use different islands for farming. So I like that addition, but I don't feel like islands still have the best purpose. I haven't found myself going, ooh, I should go use my island for XYZ now. It's still kind of the same as it was. I don't think it's super worth for a lot of players to use their islands. I know a lot of players do, but I feel like the one thing that islands could use is something maybe limited to per account, which requires in-game activity so you can't just do it on 30 accounts, like reworking how mercenary journals work, maybe putting a limit on how many you can use per day, and being able to fill them, go to your island, and actually getting some sort of value out of it. I don't know. This is just off the top of my head, to be completely honest, but I don't feel like the island rework has done a whole lot for the game, but the changes are welcome. More customizability. The visuals are pretty fantastic. And I wanted to quickly mention just how nice the verticality looks on the east side of the island. You can see super far down into canyons. You can see super far down onto kind of a little pathway over some water. I honestly hope that at some point in the near future, we get some sort of rework to how zones work, because I would love if we had terrain like this to traverse, to explore. I think the game would be absolutely vastly improved if we had a little bit more of exploration and terrain like we're seeing on our personal islands right now. I don't know if they have plans to do something like this in the future, but I really hope they do, because it looks really nice. And I think that's something that the game is lacking. Every single zone in Albion feels like just like a tile, like an instance, a square. If we had a bit more of actual exploration and verticality to the zones, I think they would feel a lot more interesting and might actually open up to more of a wider audience when people see the game. It looks a bit more intriguing when you see terrain like this. Besides the island rework, with visuals, we did get a couple new visuals in random and solo dungeons. I haven't seen a ton of them. I saw a few of them in some group dungeons, and overall good additions. I like that they're spicing up old content. I think that's good and important. And then the last thing on the list is the death recap, which is a small feature that was added, but a welcome change. People can now see the damage that was done to them, the CC that was done to them, and it's going to help a lot of new players understand what killed them, why they died, and maybe open up some learning opportunities for how to change their build or how to react to different moves in the future. So overall, good changes. I want to say the update overall is probably one of the biggest additions we've ever seen to the game. We have just like additions across the board, a really solid bit of open world content added. I really like what they've done with this update. I want to say that if you're looking for a good time to come back, if you enjoyed small scale content, I think it is a great time to revisit the game. I've been playing it quite a bit. It's been a pretty good time. And yeah, that about sums up all my thoughts. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Otherwise, we will see you around.